Good morning, everyone. This is Tom Wilder with the North Carolina Department of Labor. And again, welcome to Stairways and Ladders for Construction. So today's webinar, as normal, is scheduled for 1.5 hours. We may not go that long, we'll see. But regardless, you'll get 1.5 hours credit, which you can use for obtaining or maintaining EHS certifications such as MESH and other certifications. Again, I'm Tom Wilder. I'll be your instructor today. In addition to what we're covering today, you can go to nclabor.com or osha.gov for more information. And most of you on the webinar already know me, but I've been with the Department of Labor about 5 years. And before that, I had 28 years in safety training and quality in the textile, machine assembly, and pharmaceutical industries. I'm a retiree of the pharmaceutical industry, and sometimes I'll give examples from my manufacturing days. And for those of you who are new to these webinars, again, you want to look around your work area and try to limit distractions. If you have an office door, you might want to close it, turn phones off, or if you're in a cube, use headphones and put up a Do Not Disturb note. This tool, a lot of you already know it, it's called Webinator. In the center of the screen, you'll see our PowerPoint slides, and I'll advance them throughout the class. The emoji in the bottom left corner that's purple, I will not be using the emoji, so you don't have to bother with that. But at the bottom, you'll see the chat box. That's where you'll be responding to me with your comments or questions. And I know a lot of you have already used the chat box. If you can't see it, just scroll to the bottom of your screen to type in your chat. As before, you must attend at least 80% of the course to receive credit. And we can't give credit to anyone who's not registered and logged in. So if you have a bunch of people sitting around you, only the one that's registered and logged in can get credit for us. And you will receive a certificate if you attend at least 80% of the course, and you should get it within 3 weeks. So it looks like we're all set. A lot of you are kind of numb to my intro there because you hear it every time. But we're again going into Stairways and Ladders today. Now, before we get into it very far, I want to mention to you that this is a construction session. This is meant for construction activities. So if you're in general industry or public sector, this could apply to you anytime you're doing construction work. So if you're in the general industry standard, if you're in walking working surfaces in the general industry, if all of a sudden you go in and start doing construction, if you have maintenance folks, they'll start building a room for you. Or if you have subcontract or contractors coming into your site to do construction work, of course this would apply to them. So it's always good to know, and it's somewhat similar to walking working surfaces in the general industry standard. Also, some of you may or may not know that there's a ladder app, an app for your smartphone from NIOSH. And I've mentioned that in the chat earlier. So there's an app from NIOSH which will help you measure ladder angles. You can measure stairway angles. You can measure all kinds of angles with it. And it also has a lot of ladder safety information in it. The nice thing about that is if you have the NIOSH ladder app, and if you got your phone with you all the time, you've got ladder safety information with you at all times. Also, in the chat, I mentioned that the American Ladder Institute offers free training. So if you go to laddersafetytraining.org, the American Ladder Institute will take you through training on different types of ladders. So to go further than today's session, you might want to go through their training. And that training covers step ladder safety, that's one course, single and extension ladder safety, articulated ladder safety, and mobile ladder safety. So in their little sessions, if you go in and register, you'll take a pre-test, you'll see a video, and you'll take a post-test, and you can print certificates from that training. So if you or your employees want to get even more training and certification related to ladders, go to the American Ladder Institute's laddersafetytraining.org. Like I said, that's a great site, and the people that pay for that site are the people that manufacture ladders, such as Werner, Louisville, Little Giant, and all those folks that build ladders. They pay for that site that has a lot of good training information on it. Now, the last thing I want to mention before we get into our slides is I want to give you the most frequently cited stairway and ladder violations. So you might want to take some notes. Here they are. Not providing a handrail or stair rail system on stairs of 4 or more steps. So you see steps, there's 4 or more risers. There's no handrail or stair rail system. That's one. Not securing a portable ladder and having it extended 3 feet above the upper landing before workers use it to reach an upper level. That's frequently cited. Number 3, not providing a safe means to gain access to a vertical rise in an elevation of 19 inches or more. So in construction, if you have a rise of 19 inches or more, you need to provide a safe way for employees to get to that next level. Number 4, not providing a training program for workers on proper construction, inspection, maintenance, care, use, and limitations of stairways and ladders. And number 5, not marking or tagging a defective ladder so it will not be used before it has been repaired. So those are pretty much nationally the top 5 citations for stairways and ladders. Okay, now, like I do in a lot of polls, a lot of sessions, we're going to go ahead and do a couple of polls, instant polls. And the first one is the one we like to do is professional safety experience. We've got a small class today. Let's see how much safety experience you have. And like I said, we have a small class today. Maybe some of our other folks will be signing on here in a few minutes. So like I said, I only have about 12 people signed on. We had, let's see, how many people did we have registered? We had 45 people registered. So a lot of people either forgot or got very busy. So we'll see if some of our other folks sign on here in a few minutes. So it looks like we got a pretty good balance on safety experience. Let's close that and start another poll. And this one is for experience level. What is your experience level with this topic, stairways and ladders for construction? So I always want to know how experienced my class is with this topic. Okay, so we've got some people that are, I've got 5 of you that are brand new, and we have 3 intermediate folks. And like I said, we have a bunch of people that hadn't logged on yet. We'll see if they come here in a minute. So again, as trainers, we like to know how much experience you have with the topic and how experienced you are with safety. Okay, so stairways and ladders. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Today we're going to talk about scope application definitions, requirements. We're going to talk about stairways, what are they, and ladders, the training requirements. And the appendix is from ANSI, who sets the standards for ladders. So if you need to know more about the specification for ladders, you'll go to the ANSI standards. Now those aren't free, but we have a library here in Raleigh, Department of Labor Library, where you can access the ANSI standards if you ever come this way, or you can contact our library if you have questions about design requirements for ladders. Okay, so again, it applies to construction, alteration and repair, and demolition. These are all construction type activities. Now, so you can go ahead and start typing. I know that picture is small, and you can maximize that slide, but if you do that, you won't be able to type or use your chat, so you can go back and forth. But what is wrong in that picture? What is wrong in that photo or picture? see some of you are typing in. Okay, Colleen, standing on the top step. Correct. Mike, on the top cap of ladder, like it says, called the top cap, but we could call it a step, but we don't want people stepping up there. And leaning. Paula, that's really good. Now, if that person has a belt on, he's too high, that's right. If that person's wearing just a regular belt, he may have a tool belt on. If he has a belt buckle, where should that belt buckle always be when he's on a ladder? Where shall his belt buckle be? Okay, Mike, that's right. Your belt buckle, when you're using a ladder, your belt buckle should remain between the two beams or the rails. And Marion says facing the ladder, that's great. Now, he's outside the rails, he's too high, and he's using the ladder incorrectly. Now, there's a guy over there to the left. What should he be doing? This is a co-worker. Holding the ladder, that helps some. It can be a spotter. He can keep people from walking up and running into the ladder. But I mean, should he be doing anything besides spotting? Working, right? I mean, okay, cleaning up, that's a good answer. We have some housekeeping issues. So in other words, somebody walks up, they trip over that stuff that's laying there, they fall into the ladder and knock the guy off. Well, I said he should be coaching his co-worker, telling him to get down. That's correct. That's correct. This guy is misusing a ladder, and the guy, he's going to end up being a witness, because when this guy falls off the ladder, of course, it's too late. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, now the standard says in construction, if you have an elevation of 19 inches or more, you should provide a safe way to get up there. Now, the question on the slide is this a stairway or ladder? Is this a stairway or ladder? What is that? That's right, Paula, neither. Okay, it's a ramp. There we go, it's a ramp, that's correct. Now, that slide doesn't have all the text from the OSHA standard in it. I've got it here in my notes. A stairway or ladder should be provided where there's a break in elevation of 19 inches or more and no ramp, runway, or sloped embankment or personnel hoist is provided. So there is a ramp. Now the thing we don't know about this ramp is we don't know how secure it is. Is that ramp secure? Will it slide out? From this photo, I really can't tell. So that's not necessarily automatic citation. Now there's a name for that ramp. Let's say if you're on a farm, what is that ramp called? Let's say you're on a farm. Some people, chicken ladder. That's right, Mike. It's a chicken ladder, but it's really technically a ramp. Now they've got those slats there nailed in there to keep people from slipping off. So it's probably an okay idea. As long as that's secure, we might be okay with that. Not exactly what I would use, but I've seen worse. Okay. Now, if you work for a construction company and you build big buildings, before the stairways are installed and before the stairway scaffolds are installed, a lot of times you'll see a double cleated ladder. This is a wooden ladder that's built and it allows a lot of people to go up and down at the same time, up and down from a level. The other way to enter and exit a working area of 25 or more employees, and it needs to serve two-way traffic. So if you're building a building and the stairs aren't in yet, and the scaffold stairs are not installed yet, and you're trying to get work done, this is a safe way to have a lot of people going up and down because you have a lot of activity on the construction site. So that's a double cleated ladder. Now you want to keep ladders clear. Now this ladder is clear, but what's wrong with this ladder? What's wrong with this ladder? Okay, it's rusty, and it's also damaged. You can see right here, there's a section that got knocked out of there. So this stair is not in good shape. There's a problem. And like Mike said, structural integrity. It's damaged, it's starting to get rusty. It may not be, it's not suitable for use right now. Now, if you're in construction and you're building temporary stairs, these are some of the specs here. Your stairway angle shall be within 30 to 50 degrees. And if you have one of those NIOSH apps on a smartphone, you could easily measure that angle. If the top rail is parallel with the stairs, you could put the phone on the top rail and you can measure your angle right there. Your top rail's got to be 36 to 37 inches, and you got to have a 30-inch minimum landing up there. Okay, it's temporary stairways. And when buildings are being built, you'll see these steel stair pans, and they'll eventually become the permanent stairs. But until those pans are filled in with concrete or other materials, safe materials, you can't use those as stairs. So the stair pans need to be filled to be safe. Now, when we're talking about stairs, in construction or general industry, we got some terms we need to talk about. Where does the stair rail go on stairs? A stair rail on the left. What part of the stairs is a stair rail on? What part of the stairs? Edge. Okay, that's good. Or the open side. So if you got stairs and there's a side somebody can fall off of, then you're going to need stair rails. Now the handrail is going to be put on a wall. Now if there's a solid wall there, I can't fall through the wall. If it's solid, but I need something to hold on to, that's a handrail. So on the open side of stairs, I need a stair rail. And depending on the width of the stairs and all some other specs, you're probably going to need a handrail on that wall as well. Okay, now we've got a construction trailer here. We've got a building site. Tell me about what you like, or what's right or wrong with those stairs. Do you see anything? Okay, Colleen, it does look pretty good. It does look pretty good. Now let's talk about what's good about it. Okay, I'm getting some really good comments down there. Now, first of all, I love your comments. Now we got 4 risers. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means I've got to have stair rails on each side, top rail and mid rail, for people to hold on to. So that's all proper for 4 risers. Now the problem there is what you've been commenting on. These stairs, when they were built, the risers were all equal. Well, your risers need to be equal distance because you don't want people climbing stairs and have one riser shorter than the other ones. That can cause people to trip. But what probably happened here is when they brought this gravel in, they backfilled this with gravel, so it gave the person a short first step and then three regular ones here. So what I would do in that case, because I have an idea this was put in correctly to begin with, I would clear that gravel. Gravel's not a bad idea, but I'd clear it out so we got 4 even risers. So if you're building steps, you don't want the risers to be unequal distances. Okay, Colleen says change to stepping stones instead of gravel. Okay, it's not a bad idea. Or, like Mike says, rake the gravel to the height of that first step. Either way, where you're not presenting a tripping hazard to the employees. Okay, so like that slide, if you got 4 or more risers, for rising more than 30 inches, you must have at least 1 handrail and 1 stair rail along each unprotected or open side to the stairs. It depends on whether they're against a wall. Now let's go back. The reason they put this stair rail on the right, this is not a smooth wall. A handrail, if you got a body moving upstairs, you don't want anything not smooth there where you'd be rubbing against something that's not smooth. So there's some different edges in here. So they went ahead and said, you know, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to keep people away from that wall. I'm going to put a stair rail over there, which was a good idea. Now, the stair rail is not secured. The stair rail, as long as it's secured to meet the specification, that's okay. It may not be secured at the top, but if it meets the design requirements, you're okay as far as strength. Okay. Now, you were talking about that. Stair rail and handrail systems must take a 200-pound lateral force and be smoothed and be constructed in a way to prevent injuries and not have a projection hazard where somebody can get cut. So here's a case where they're using metal studs as handrails and guardrails that meets the spec, as long as it doesn't present a cutting hazard to the employee. Okay, so let's say you have to put a handrail on a wall. You're going to have at least 30 to 37 inches from the top of the step to the rail. It must be an adequate handhold for somebody to hold on. It must be at least 3 inches away from the wall for somebody to be able to grip the handrail. Now, in your life, you've probably seen handrails that weren't installed correctly, and they're all the way against their wall, and you can't get a grip on it. So that's very important. Okay, let me go ahead and stop for a second. Do we have any questions or comments at this point? Are we good to go? Okay, Colleen's doing good. Okay, so I'm trying to keep up with the chat. Looks like we're good to go. This subject's pretty simple to get today, so I'm hoping there won't be a lot of confusion on it. Okay, here's a stair rail violation. Okay, we've got a comment. Is anyone else having trouble with sound going in and out? How's your sound doing? Okay, so if one of you is having sound issues, that may be on your end. Sorry about that, but that looks like that's out of my control. Okay, now, this company had good intent, and they put these prefabricated stairs in there, but there's no stair rails. You got 2 open sides, there's no stair rail. What's the other problem here? That's right, Mike. Distance to top riser. You asked a question, and why is there a guard above the top step? I think there's a small strip there that just helps hold it together. If that was level with that landing above, that probably would not be issues. Like I said, a piece of wood. If it's properly installed, it would be fine. So we don't have 4 even risers. At the bottom, we got dirt here. At the top, we got a big elevation that we're trying to climb. Now, let's go ahead and take these. Let's go ahead and take these out. And what are some bad things to put in here? I'm talking about things that are not right. What do companies do? Let's get rid of these. Somebody's going to grab something else. What do people put there instead of doing the right thing? Blocks. There you go. That's a good answer. Or stones. And let me tell you something else. A lot of companies will take a pallet, like a pallet that you receive materials on. They'll turn it sideways and lean it against the building and climb the pallet. Okay, 2x10 plank, okay, that's a good answer. So anyway, there are right ways to do this, and of course, wrong ways. What about this? What do you think? Do you see anything right here? Too steep, correct. Does not look sturdy, correct. What about dimensions? Are those proper dimensions for steps? No. But anyway, you've got extreme angle there. Now, and like I said, there's hardly anything right here. And you've got a stair. Now that overhead there, I can't tell from the picture whether that's overhead over the stairs or not. What's wrong with the stair rail to the right? What's wrong to that stair rail to the right? No mid-rail, that's correct. And there's no stair rail on this side. So this is pretty bad. They're not strong, they're too steep, they're missing a stair rail, and they're missing a mid-rail on the other side. It's not a good job. And if I'm a construction site and I've got people climbing those stairs, somebody's going to get hurt. Now, do you think people carry materials up those stairs? Carry materials? What do you think? It's a construction site. Do people carry materials? Yes, of course. So, in other words, do people carry materials? Yes, of course. So, in other words, you're almost trying to get somebody hurt. I want somebody to get hurt on my job site. I'm going to put inadequate stairs there, and I'm going to have them climb those stairs with materials. It's just terrible. Okay. Now, your stair rails, when you have to build stair rails, your top height not less than 36. So you got 36 to 37 from the top of the step to the stair rail. And you're going to have something in between a mid-rail mesh or screens to keep people from falling in between the stair rail. Pretty straightforward. Okay, let's switch gears to ladders. Now, don't be confused by this. The design requirements of ladders is not the same as use requirements of ladders. So when the companies build it, they're going to build in safety factors. And it says they must be able to sustain at least 3.3 times the maximum intended load. That's design. Now, let's get out of that because none of you work for a company that I know of that manufactures ladders. So if you work for Werner and Louisville and Little Giant and those folks, we're getting into design specs. Now, if I'm going to use that ladder, what am I going to look at before I use it? I mean, you're going to inspect it, but what are you going to also look at? What will you look at before you use that ladder? The label. That's right, Mike. This should be labeled, and if the label wears off or something happens to the label, you're going to have to contact the manufacturer and get another label for that ladder. And they do have them. They'll probably charge you for it. But your workers need to know what that ladder is designed to support, how much weight. So if you go to a site, it's going to be, it might be type 1AA, 1A, or 1 most likely on a construction site. Type 2 and 3 ladders are what homeowners typically buy. A type 3 ladder is designed for 200 pounds total weight. Type 2 is 225, type 1 is 250, type 1A is 300, and 1AA is 375. So if I'm going to climb that ladder, let's just say the ladder looks good, it's properly set and level, and I'm going to climb that ladder. What am I going to consider for the weight that I'm putting on the ladder? What comprises the weight? What is the weight? You and your tools and materials, that's right. So again, you're going to think about all the weight that you have on you, and that shall not exceed the limit for that particular ladder. Now this just says that these are some design specs for fixed ladders for construction. And I'm not even going to go into that because this class is not so much about design specifications for fixed ladders. But that's 1926 1053A1 III. That's just in the standard. And also there's some other design specs in the standard. But the people that build the ladders are the ones that are going to assure you that it meets those specs. I would not, if I'm a user of ladders, I'm not worried about the design specs of the ladder, because if a reputable company built it to ANSI standards, it's going to meet all that. Again, don't worry about it. But you're going to worry about the condition of the ladder. Now, we may have proper rungs, but I've got a damaged rung here. So if you're getting ready to use a ladder and it's damaged, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Tag it out of service. Right. If you don't tag it out of service, we don't want people to use it, but if it's not tagged out, a lot of people are going to use it anyway, especially if they don't see the defect or if they're in a hurry and they want to take a shortcut. So you're going to tag it, you're going to remove it for use, like Joel says, until it's repaired. Or let's say you're going to throw it away. How shall you properly throw it away? What's the proper way to throw it away? I see lots of people. There we go, Mike. Destroy, cut them up, recycle. Right. Because, yeah, render useless. Because if you don't do that, let's say you work for a company, you've got ladders, it doesn't matter whether it's general industry or construction, it's damaged and somebody throws it out in the recycling bin, I guarantee you, whether somebody from your company or the public, somebody's going to grab that ladder, take it home and say, hey, I can use this ladder. And let's just say there was a fatality with that ladder at somebody's house. You know, the legal people, this not necessarily OSHA, but legal people are probably going to be hunting you down because that was your equipment. And so again, you don't want it to be useful for anybody after you've thrown it away. Okay, ladders must not be tied or fastened together or extended unless by design. What's wrong with that picture? What is that? Yes, taped together, duct tape. Again, somebody's taking a shortcut. They got ladders that aren't long enough, and then they duct tape two ladders together. Obviously, not good. Now, when you're using your step ladders, anytime you see somebody using a step ladder, the spreaders on the side should be locked down. You know, they should be spread out and locked down. And this guy on the left there, we see this all the time. Our compliance officers see this. You would not believe how many pictures we have of people working improperly off ladders. Again, it's very common. So he's using the step ladder as a leaning ladder. So obviously not good. Make sure you tell your employees to not use ladders that way. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide. Also, when you got fixed ladders, you must have they must be offset by a landing. Okay, when you're using separate ladders like that, and these ladders shall be labeled. And there's an example of a label. Okay, now when we're using these extension ladders to access an upper landing, okay, so when you're accessing an upper landing, it needs to be 3 feet over the edge. Now, when we do this training, we want people to know why do we want 3 feet? What's the reason for that? So when you're training employees, you need to tell them why. Why do we want that 3 feet? Why do we want 3 feet? At least 3 feet. Okay, that's right, Mike. Can you imagine this guy? Well, this guy's going to have a hard time getting off that ladder, even though it's extended a little more than a foot. Because when he gets up on the roof, the top of that ladder is so low that if he's trying to transition and hold on to the ladder, it's going to be hard. So it's going to give him a handhold to get off that ladder. Now, do you think it's possible to have a ladder extended way too much? Could it be extended way too much? What if they extended it 8 feet? That's right, Mariana, Joseph, Brenda. That's right. What if it was 10 feet? What could happen there? Let's say 6 feet overlap. What could the person do? Right, lose its balance, make the base unstable. So when you're transitioning off that ladder, you got a lot more leverage when you have a lot more ladder above the edge there. So the person could try climbing up too high, which would cause the ladder to kick out. Or when they transition off, that ladder could slide out and he would slide off the roof with the ladder. So you don't want people to go crazy there. You want it to be about 3 feet. Don't go way too much because that could be a hazard as well. Now, the angle of a ladder, when you're setting a ladder against the edge, so if I'm going up on a roof, that working length is from the base of the ladder to the edge. I want to go 1/4 of the working length out, and that's about a 75-degree angle. Now, if you're setting a ladder, what's the quick and easy way to set an extension ladder, whether at home or at work? What's a good quick way to set that angle? Okay, right, Mike. So if you're facing the ladder and you put the toes of your shoes against the bottom rail and you reach your arms out, if your hand is grabbing a rail, if it's the distance where your hand will grab a rail, that's going to be about 75 degrees. That's just right. If the ladder's out too far, you may not be able to grab a rail, or if it's too vertical, your hands, when you have them straight out, they're going to go through the ladder and they're going to go too far. So that's a nice, quick, and easy way without measuring. Or if you had the smartphone with that app in it, you could put it against the ladder, and it's going to give you about a 75-degree angle, which is safe. Okay. Now the ladders must be on stable and level surfaces. Now this particular ladder, even if that thing's set right, it's hard for me to tell from that photo because I can't tell the angle on it. That is so high. I mean, it just scares me to death. And the top of that ladder doesn't seem to be 3 feet above, beyond the edge. So if they're transitioning off that ladder's not right. The angle's probably not right as well. But that's a humbling feeling climbing that kind of ladder that's that long. That thing has to be correct. Now let's go ahead and stop and ask this question. If you met all the OSHA requirements for the use of a ladder, is a ladder the safest device to work from? The safest, a ladder to work from, to work off of? No. So don't be fooled. If you got your ladder set perfectly, there are a lot of things you can do to fall off a ladder. So it's not the safest thing to work off of. So a contractor, what's a contractor going to use sometimes instead of working off of ladders? What are they going to use? A lift, an aerial lift, bucket truck, scaffolds. There we go. Or a scissors lift. So again, what are we using the ladder for? Are we using it for transitioning, or are we working off the ladder? Okay, now this slide says ladders must be used only for the purpose in which they were designed. Now this is probably really hard for you to see what's going on in this tiny picture on your screen. I see a single section ladder supporting a plank, a metal plank, a proper metal plank, and they're using a ladder jack attachment to the ladder. Now, who of you can see anything that's wrong? Now, you're looking from a long ways here, so if you can't see it, that's okay. Do you see anything wrong here? Okay, now we're just using that ladder for support for that plank. They're working off that plank, those planks. Okay, it's unstable. Now, there's a ladder jack attachment on that ladder, and if you go all the way to the right, what is holding up that plank? What's that blue? Okay, right. There's an aerial lift over there. So they've got a ladder jack, a plank, and an aerial lift holding up the right end of the plank. Now, let me ask you this question. You've got a construction site. You've got an aerial lift there. Man-made bridge, right. You got an aerial lift there. What's the question? Work from it. I mean, you've got a great piece of equipment there that is relatively safe to work from. It's got a guardrail all around it, and we're using an aerial lift to support a plank, and that plank's going over to a ladder jack. Now, this picture gets worse. Now, you're not going to be able to see it all because, and I can't blow it up right now in my software here, but there's a guy over there to the left that is standing on the two top caps of 2 step ladders. So you got 2 step ladders side by side, and he's got 1 foot on one top cap and 1 foot on the other. No, and those people aren't on the trailer. They're on the other side. But one of those guys is standing on the top caps of 2 step ladders. This is really a bad day here at this company. Now let's zoom in to something else. Okay, we got 2 metal planks, work planks. What are holding those together? That's a crowbar. Yeah, prayer. A crowbar. So here, okay, now when we're talking about ladder use, we got a ladder jack attachment. This single ladder has a ladder jack attachment. That single ladder is not designed for that ladder jack attachment. We got a plank on it, and then we've connected that other plank with this crowbar. This is really bad. I don't want to work for this company. This company's in construction, and they don't have their act together, and there clearly is no competent person around there that I can tell. Okay, now your ladders need slip-resistant feet on them, like these particular extension ladders. What's wrong with these feet? Okay. What is wrong, Joel? Like your comment. Rusted? But what's not on the bottom of the feet? Right, Mike? The skid pads are gone. So those metal feet had skid pads under them. The pads are gone. So, right, the rubber. So the chance of that ladder sliding out is much greater with the rubber missing. So this is your ladder. This is your company. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with this ladder? Right. You're going to take it out of service. You might have a red tag system, or whatever color tag. You're going to tag it out, sign it out, tag it out of service. Now, is that ladder easily repaired? Can I easily repair that ladder? What do you think? With the right parts? Yes. That's an easy repair. Tag it out of service, order the feet from the manufacturer, from the company where it came from, and then properly repair that ladder. Now, those feet, let's say those feet are proper. Let's say they have rubber under them. Let's say they look good. Now, they really don't, but let's just pretend they do. Now, if I'm using that ladder, do those feet always have to be flat? Does the ladder always have to be sitting flat on those? And some of you are probably going to understand what I'm talking about. Do those feet need to be flat every single time? Now this is where some of you are going to actually learn something new today. The answer is no. Because those feet are designed to be used as feet or cleats. And to be used as cleats, they dig into the ground to keep the ladder from sliding out. So when you're using a ladder with feet that also serve as cleats, do you want the bottom of the ladder cleated, or do you want it flat? So those serve as cleats as well. And if you do your homework on ladders, you'll learn that most of the time you're going to be using them flat as feet rather than cleats. But sometimes you'll be using them that way. Okay, so that's something you may have learned today. Now, you must keep the area around the top and bottom ladders clear. Air is not kept clear around these ladders. And what does this guy at the bottom need? This guy walking around? Hard hat, right? Exactly. Now we're going to talk about this picture a little bit more here in a minute, because we're going to see this picture several times. On the grass. Now, Monica, you said on the grass as well. I'm not sure what your question is. I mean, we want good housekeeping, we want everything clear, we want the ladder angle set right, and we want the ladder set right. And we want that guy wearing a hard hat. And we want to keep the area clear of anything running into those ladders. But we got more issues with ladders, but we're going to be, oh, okay. It just depends on the situation, Monica. Like I said, as a rule, most of the time you're going to use the feet flat. But if you're going to use it as cleats, you're going to have to think, what is going to be better for keeping this ladder from slipping out on this particular surface? Now, in dirt, like loose dirt, cleats may be the way to go. When you get into grass and you get into sod, it depends. So you're just going to have to make a good judgment there. And most of the time, you're going to see those ladders sitting flat on those feet. But I want the person that sets that ladder actually be thinking about it when they set the ladder. Okay? Now, the person must face the ladder. You're welcome. The person must face the ladder when they're working off of it. This is pretty unstable here. This guy is working backwards. He's up high on a step ladder and working backwards. So that's not good. It says employee must use at least one hand to grasp the ladder when progressing up and down. Now, we always talk about 3 points of contact, but OSHA standard says you always must have one hand to grasp the ladder when you're going up and down. Any point in time, you've got to have one hand grasping. Now, let's look at this photo. What do you say? What's wrong with this picture? Everything. I like that answer. Everything's wrong. Well, that's kind of true. The ladder angle is not correct. We don't have a protected work zone around that ladder. But the biggest hazard here is that guy is working under a load. I mean, they're setting that steel beam, that top beam, and that guy, that piece of equipment is holding it. He's working under a load to secure that beam. So that beam's not even secure. So the beam could drop, everything could drop down on that guy as he's trying. Everything could drop down on that guy as he's trying to make that attachment. Okay, would a scaffold be better? Yeah, it could be. And there's some mobile scaffolds that could be used there. Okay, let's say if you're going to use, well, like I said, a ladder is just not a good idea because it's hard to be safe from that load until it's secured that beam itself. Second lift, right. No fall protection. Okay, I like that comment. Now, does OSHA require a person to be wearing fall protection when they're working off the ladder? No, that's correct. Hard hats, if there's an overhead hazard, yes, but you do not have to wear fall protection when you're working off a portable ladder. Now, fixed ladders, that's a whole different subject. We're not talking about permanent fixed ladders because that's going through a lot of evolution right now. But it is true for general industry, right, Colleen? If you're just working off of a ladder, you do not have to have fall protection regardless of height. Now, your company, your organization may have some stricter rules. But generally speaking, that is not true for OSHA, unless we're talking about fixed ladders for general industry. That's just, again, a whole separate subject. Those are going through evolution right now. So what happens if he falls? Obviously, he's going to be seriously hurt. But if you're working properly off any ladder, there's always a chance of falling. That's why I said working off ladder is not the safest way to work to begin with. There is a risk of working off of a ladder. Okay, now let's move on to the next photo. Now, and I could ask, what do you see wrong? And then Colleen's going to say everything, and I'm going to agree with her. But what is wrong with this picture? What's wrong? I see a scaffold. I see two ladders. Yeah, ladder on the roof. Okay, that's not right. A good question. How's the ladder hooked on the roof? And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, Joel. I'm glad you asked that question. Is that ladder properly set to get on a scaffold? No. Now, here's what we're thinking. They're climbing that super leaning ladder, which that ladder not set right. They get on the scaffold, they walk across, they climb up the right side of the scaffold to transition to the roof. Okay? And that's really messed up. Now, the scaffold's not even right. What is wrong with the scaffold besides the ladder? That's funny, Joseph. We're going to talk a little bit more about chicken ladders here in a minute. That's right, Mike. There's no cross bracing. This scaffold is 2 bucks high. So for the scaffold to be stable, you're going to have bracing at the front and back, at the bottom, and the next section. Now, if you're in construction, what do you tell your people not to do with cross bracing to access the higher level? You do not, climb on it. Yeah, don't climb the cross bracing. Now, that should be standard procedure not to ever do that on a construction site. But compliance officers see it. They'll be driving along, they'll see somebody climbing cross bracing to access a higher level on the scaffold. They'll take pictures and open an inspection. We see a lot of really bad stuff out there. I don't know if you're familiar with mast climbers, M-A-S-T climbers. It's a scaffold. This automatically climbs this big mast beside a building up and down. It's a mechanical scaffold that goes up and down a mast. There have been cases where the scaffold would be up high on a building and somebody on the ground would climb the mast to get up to the scaffold. That's totally wrong. But again, there are people out there that will do it. So there's a lot of issues here with this setup. Now let's just say we don't know what the situation is with this picture. This could be a contractor or it could be a homeowner. Can OSHA take a picture and go open an inspection with a homeowner working on their own house like this? No. So the homeowner can do whatever they want to, even if it's not safe. So you'll see homeowners doing things that are crazy just because it's not regulated. So, here we go. Now, we got another construction picture. Okay, let's start with this orange ladder. They're using that for access. What's the problem? Okay, securing's not a bad idea, not 3 feet above. There we go. Yeah, they're accessing, they're going over that edge Now the angle's probably wrong. The ladder doesn't look right already. Now, look at that guy over there to the left. What's wrong there? What kind of ladder is that? Step ladder. That's right. So he's using a step ladder, a folded step ladder, as a leaning ladder. That's not correct. A step ladder shall never be used as a leaning ladder. It's not designed for that. And a step ladder will slide out easily to be used as a leaning ladder. Of course, the guy's taking a shortcut because he's trying to save time. He doesn't have the right equipment. Now, we've already talked about the 4-to-1 ratio. Now, I don't know that many of you would climb on this ladder like that. What could happen with that ladder? Slide out. That ladder is asking to slide out. Because right here against that board or fascia or whatever that board's called right there, I mean, that's like 2 or 3 inches up there on that edge. If that comes out the least bit, that guy's coming straight down. That's really, really bad. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this photo is I'm in the old Revenue Building, downtown Raleigh, and this is a church that's right beside us. So sometimes you don't have to go very far to see issues with construction. Okay, what's wrong with the picture? And good question, how they get the ladder up there. That's a great question. Okay, now the guy that's on that ladder has fall protection on. He's got a harness, he's got a lifeline, drop down, and as far as I can tell, he's connected. That looks pretty good. The ladder doesn't look good. What is the ladder sitting on? What is the ladder sitting on, besides the roof, at the bottom? Gutter. How many of you would trust your gutter to hold the force of a ladder like that with somebody on it? Now, so anyway, he's using that ladder like a chicken ladder, but that ladder's not designed that way. He's got fall protection on. Okay, that's not too bad. What is the fall protection? What is his anchor point? What do you think? What do you think's at the top of that peak there? That's made out of concrete that he's tied off to? The cross. That's right. That cross is up there. Do you think, anchor point should be typically 5,000 or more, rated for 5,000 pounds force? Do you think that cross is rated for that? No. So I know we could make some jokes about this, which I'm not going to do. But anyway, that cross, yeah, that cross is not going to suffice as an anchor point. Now here's the thing. They've got an aerial lift over there. Now I don't know how much reach that aerial lift has. So they could have done almost all their work with an aerial lift. Maybe that one, I don't know. Instead of rigging something up with there, they're doing some things right and some things wrong. But the ladder's going to come out, the gutter's going to collapse, the ladder's going to come down, the guy's going to fall, it's going to put force on that cross, it's going to break off, all that's going to come down to the ground, and the cross is probably going to hit him on the head. I mean, it's just totally, totally wrong. So there are some major issues here, serious, serious issues. Okay, now when you set your ladders up, you want them to be on a stable surface. And this person goes, you know, I just need to get a little bit higher. I just need about another foot, and I can reach what I'm working on. I mean, would anybody ever do this? Maybe. I don't know. I've got the ladder sitting on boards, and on top of whatever that device is, there it has rollers on it. I mean, doing that is like being in an office, not using a ladder, and using a swivel rolling chair to stand on to do something at the ceiling. I want something that moves easily to stand on. Okay, right, like you said, no sane person. Okay, now sometimes you're going to secure your ladders. You need to secure them. Now the one on the right has those damaged feet. We've already talked about that, feet/cleats. Now the one on the left, they've secured that, but do you think they could have done a better job on that ladder doing that? Yes, what could they have done to make that a little bit safer? Use metal pickets. Well, whatever you use, knowing that a person can slide down that ladder, I don't want them to run in or be impaled by whatever's making that ladder secure. So if I started falling or slipping, coming down that ladder, and the ladder stayed there, if I fall a long ways onto that piece of wood that's sticking out there to the right, that's going to mess me up big time. So whatever you drive in the ground, whatever you put in there, you need to position it so that the person's not going to come into it. Now what would be worse than that would be like rebar, reinforcing bar, like a metal bar. If you had a long piece of rebar, that would impale somebody if they came into it, sliding down really hard. But you don't want anything that somebody can slide into and get hurt. And like I said, Joel, use metal pickets. It's on the inside of the beam, so you've set those in a way to where it's not a hazard. That's good. Now, you want to protect the area where you're working with a ladder. Is it beside a door, or are there pieces of equipment, skid steers, loaders, tractors, anything running nearby? Is there a lot of activity where people can run into the ladder? If the answer is yes, then we need to set up a work zone with cones and tape. Now the top of that ladder, let's see if we can go back. I'm going to go all the way back to the first time we saw that picture. Okay, it should be, no, I skipped it. I must have just skipped right over it. I'm looking for the first time we saw that. Again, I must have skipped. There we go. That's not it either. Okay, well, anyway, yeah, this is where we're looking. Now, is the ladder angle right? Is the ladder angle right? No, correct. The person needs to have a hard hat on. Is the housekeeping good? No. Now, that guy, as far as I know, is not using that ladder to access that upper landing. Okay, so he doesn't necessarily need 3 feet, but it's barely on that fascia board. Could that ladder slide out pretty easily? What do you think? Yes. So again, in that picture, the ladder can slide out real easily. And now that second worker that's over there to the left, he climbs out the window to get on the roof there. That's how he's accessing the roof. No fall protection. That's right. That guy that's not on a ladder doesn't have any fall protection on. How many feet above the ground requires fall protection? At least 6 feet. That's right. Good catch. No fall protection. Okay, now let's go back to where we were. And okay, and we've kind of beat this to death. Nobody shall work off the top cap. And we've got hundreds and hundreds of photos like this. I mean, people do it all the time. Instead of getting a taller ladder, they'll use a short ladder and stand on the top cap. And we've already done this. We've already identified the hazards. What about this ladder? What's wrong here? Okay, it's not stable on top, ladder angle. And if you're climbing onto the roof from this ladder, what about that? Not 3 feet. So if you're on the ground, you're going to count the rungs above the edge. If you don't count 3 rungs, it's not 3 feet. So that's not correct. Now, ladders must be inspected by a competent person and defective material taken out of service and tag. This right here, this is damaged right here. So this is a damaged ladder that wasn't taken out of service. When you go up and down the ladders, you'll face the ladder and use one hand to grasp the ladder when you're going up or down. Now this person is climbing a ladder and it looks like he's holding a chimney cap. Is there any way to climb that ladder and have a hand on a rung at all times holding that chimney cap? No. So if you're working for a company that installs chimney caps, what's the safe way to do that? What would be the safe way to do that? Okay, yeah, hoist it up by rope. Climb first, then lift. Exactly. You'll get the worker up there, and you'll find a way. Find a way to hoist it up there. But like I said, he could lose his balance because that chimney cap, I don't know, it's extremely heavy, but it's heavy enough to really help him lose his balance because he's trying to hold it. He doesn't have really good grip on it anyway. So that's kind of scary. Training. In construction, you should have a training program for people that use ladders. You're going to talk to them about the fall hazards, the correct procedures for installing ladders, equipment, stairs, and tell them about load capacities of ladders also, and to respect that. And just for ladders alone, I mentioned the American Ladder Institute's free training. Again, if you just want to focus on ladders themselves, this is just the education part. The laddersafetytraining.org will train you on step ladder, articulating ladder, single and extension ladders, and mobile ladders. You can take 4 classes and get certificates for that, just on the education piece. Now, in your training with your company, you're going to talk about your ladders, your equipment, your fall hazards, and your procedures. Okay? All right. Now, these appendix in the standards references ANSI. ANSI sets the standards for ladders. And if you ever need to know more about the design requirements for ladders, then you would go to the ANSI standards, which we have in our library here in downtown Raleigh. So if you're ever downtown Raleigh, you could go to our safety library and look up ANSI standards for whatever you want to look up. These are the ones for ladders. So today we talked about scope, application definitions, requirements, stairways, ladders, and training requirements, and the appendix. Now, I think we've addressed most of the questions. This subject wasn't really too complicated today. And if I've missed any questions, I'll look at the chat afterwards and respond to everybody. Hopefully I haven't missed any. So I've got 11:16, and at 11:16 I'm going to go ahead and call this the end of the webinar. So if you want to log off right now, that's fine. And I'm going to stay on here for just a few minutes. So anyway, you've been great today. I appreciate your participation, and hopefully maybe you've learned a thing or two about stairways and ladders in construction. You're welcome, Mike. All of you have been great. I've got some smart students today, and like I said, hopefully you learned a couple of things you didn't know before. So anyway, with that said, again, I'll stay on here for just a couple more minutes. Thank you, Brenda. And then we'll finally log off. We've been having webinars most every day, so hopefully these have been good for you, and hopefully they'll help you maintain your certifications or get new certifications such as your mesh certification. So again, you're welcome, James. And like I said, a lot of you have been very participative today, and the class did get bigger. A lot of people logged on here after the start of the session. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to log off today. You've got my contact information at the top of the chat. My name is Tom Wilder, and you feel free to call me if you need to. And if you need to. And I'm going to try to stop the webinar from recording. So anyway, all of you have a great day. This is the end of the webinar. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.